Okay, hello everybody. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Well, right now, all I see are a couple of people. As I said before, I'm not literally on Facebook, so I can't see people's questions. Let me come down a little bit. Oh, there you go. But welcome. Welcome, Keena. Marvin, glad you guys are here. We're talking about the middle school child today. And it's going to be a fun ride. I prepared myself and I really want to get right into it. So hopefully other people will join. Remember, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll look at them afterwards. Also, feel free to share. I've noticed when one or two people share this, my numbers go from 250 to 300 to up to 500 to 800 people watching this video, just with a couple of people sharing. So if you enjoy my videos, please share. I want to get the word out, especially with the middle school brain. Some of you guys have kids in middle school. This is the ages from about 11 to 13. Okay, preteen to early teen ages. And this is amazing what's going on. So what I'm going to start with is just a recap. So you see that brain development picture that I have on the screen. I've been talking to you about neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. The first couple of years from the womb all the way to kindergarten, the brain is very young, right? Very yellow, red, and green, as you see on the left side of this picture, meaning the cells are growing, specifically gray matter. The neurons are growing like crazy, developing like crazy. And as you age all the way to 20 years old, this is a study by Paul Thompson. He did MRIs. He did MRIs from the ages of 5 for about 13 children all the way till when they turned 20 years old. And he saw the drastic changes of their brain development. So right now, I'm getting into the age of 13. There's a drastic shift now. It's not as yellow as before. So let me give you a understanding. This is going to be a little bit of anatomy today, okay? Hold on with me. I'm going to make it as plain as possible. I told you that before it was yellow and green and it was growing. The neurons were growing a lot, meaning there was a lot of gray matter, okay? Gray matter is the area of the brain that is filled with neurons, specifically the cell body of the neuron. So where you see that little picture of a diagram of a neuron, it says the soma, cell body. That's like the brain of the neuron. That's where the nucleus is. That's where the neuron makes a lot of decisions. That's in the gray matter. And that's the part that's dividing a lot. See, when you're a kid, neurons do divide. They do grow. There's a point where, unfortunately, that neurons stop doing mitosis or growing. All right. So they're growing a lot in your early childhood, meaning the gray matter. If you look at the lower picture, it's that dark brownish area on the edges. The dark brownish area on the edges, that's gray matter. That's where the neuron cell body is. That's where certain types of neurons, the whole neuron is, and they're growing. But as you age, you no longer make new neurons. For the most part, there's some exceptions. Instead, the axons of the neurons start to lengthen. So if you look at that picture, there's an axon. It says the myelin sheath makes up white matter. That long myelinated axon, it's what makes up the white matter of the brain, which from this point on will be developing very well. So when you were a kid, when you were womb to kindergarten, the cell bodies, the gray matter was growing a lot. But now we're transitioning from the gray matter growing to actually they declining, but the axons growing a lot. And why do we need axons? If you look at that picture right there, it says cerebral white matter. Those fibers, if you look at that, there's red fibers, there's purple, there's green fibers. If you look at some of them, they're talking from one side to the other. The purpose of axons are to help the neuron, whose cell body is in the gray matter, to then communicate either on the opposite side of the brain or on the same side of the brain, or even send messages all the way down the brain, all the way through my spinal cord, out through nerves to make my body move. So the brain connects with my body through white matter. And now in the middle school era, that is when the white matter is excessively growing, okay? That's what's excessively growing. So I said before, you're starting to look at this brain. No longer are you seeing yellow and red, meaning the gray matter has stopped or is in the process of stopping to grow. And the white matter, that's why you're starting to see a lot of blue now. That's where white matter is taking over. Okay? And so if you look at the picture, you'll see blue everywhere. Blue starting to emerge everywhere, because in the middle school brain, the brain is no longer trying to do a lot of neurogenesis. Now it's trying to connect. The brain is trying to connect with itself. The brain is starting to connect with the body. Sensory information is starting to make sense now. You're starting to use logic to understand all of your sensory information. If you look at this area of the picture where the second picture of the brain, where like the brain right here is all blue, that's the area for touch. If you remember earlier, I was talking about the back of the brain for vision. That was always blue. The kid's brain from way back has been developed very well in the visual center. But now the blue is starting to spread everywhere in the brain, meaning that you're starting to really understand connections now everywhere, especially in the touch centers. So this is where practical learning has to happen. All right. This is where math and science needs to start. We need to start really getting into math and science heavily, but in a practical way. So I was, for the longest time, from the womb to pre-K, from kindergarten from kindergarten to fifth grade, elementary, I was focusing on reading, if you remember, right? Language. And I didn't heavily focus on STEM, but now that your sensory information is starting to connect with your brain, and your brain is starting to interpret it very well, or much better than when you were younger, pre-11, you need to be doing math and science like crazy. Math and science like crazy in a practical way. When I say like crazy, no summers off. No summers off. No, that I'm going to take a break. I'm going to do a lot of homework between the areas of September and May and then stop. No. We're not going to do that. In the summertime, they need to be doing math. In the summertime, they need to be doing science. And they have to do it in a way that it's practical, where the area of their brain is really active and developed, the touch centers of the brain. With math, instead of just having them memorize times tables, how about you start measuring something? Have them have a ruler and they measure blocks, and they use all the formulas that you're learning in middle school. They're learning about surface area. They're learning about circumference. They're learning all those things. Have them do it practically, not just on a piece of paper, but get a block and a ruler and measure it out. That's an example of practical things they can be doing. Understanding ecosystems, take them outside, especially in the summertime, especially if people live in the areas like in the country areas or areas where there is an oasis. Florida is a perfect place to take children outside, take them to every ecosystem that they can think about, right? There's tons of ecosystems. There's bodies of water. If you're in California, take them to the desert. Take them to lakes, help them understand ecosystems. Let them touch the ecosystem. Let them feel the earth, feel the rocks of the earth. Take them on hikes into mountains if you're in the upper states of New York. Get out the city. Go to upstate. Go for a hike. Let them touch the forest. Let them touch science, because that's the brain part that's very active. Help them understand the solar system. They can't get out of space, but take them to the planetarium. Take them to Kennedy Science Center. Help them to understand energy and how the sun works and how the earth works around the sun. Okay, these are examples of what you can do practically. Build things with chemicals, with chemistry. Have them build the models. There are a lot of model kits where it has all the atoms and the elements and sticks that can represent bonds, and have them build water. Have them build carbon dioxide. Not just see it, not just hear about it, but touch it. Make it tangible to them. So this is the era, as I said before, of heavy practical learning of math and science. Not just using your mind to learn math and science, but using your touch senses. All right? Okay, let's move on, because that's not the only part of the brain that is developing. Okay? The emotional brain is developing. Okay. If you remember, I told you that in the child, especially a male child, they have a lot of testosterone in the beginning of their life to create their male organs, etc. But there is a drastic dip of testosterone in the elementary school era. Drastic dip. But if everything works properly, that hormone, testosterone, is coming back with a vengeance. It's coming back with a vengeance. Or for females, new hormones are coming. This is the era of puberty. And because of that, they are heavily emotional. They are going through cycles, dips, and turns because their body is being rushed with new hormones that many of them haven't experienced before. All right. Meanwhile, while their emotional side is going tipsy-turvy, not every part of the brain is connecting yet. The prefrontal area, the prefrontal cortex, is still growing. It's still going through neurogenesis process. It's not connecting very well with the emotional brain. So children at this age range seem scatterbrained. They're all over the place. If you ask a kid what they want to be when they grow up, they want to be a doctor, nurse, and football player at the same time. They don't understand that concept yet. And you can't tell them, no, you can't do that. Just leave them alone. Understand what's going on with their brain. Their frontal lobe right here, their prefrontal cortex, has not developed and is not connected well with their emotions, and the hormones that are being released all over their body is causing a lot of distraction. So you have to consider that. All right, and what does that mean? What does that mean? The fact that the prefrontal cortex is not very developed yet. In young ladies, And young ladies, 2 years, they're 2 years ahead of the males. All right. But even them, even the young ladies, their prefrontal cortex is not developed. So what do we do about that? What do we do about that? I'm sorry. Oh, somehow that slide did not make it in here. Okay. Well, this is what we do about it. I guess that slide wasn't supposed to be in there. Eliminate distractions. Eliminate distractions. I just gave the example that the emotional brain is heavy, and basically the brain that involves conscious thought, making proper decisions, has not been fully developed yet. So the child is making all kinds of decisions that don't make sense to you. You as a parent know this now. You must eliminate distractions. Number one, no dating. Yeah, I said it. No dating. You could take them, bring them to the computer and hear me say 11, 12, and 13-year-old child should not have little girls calling their house. Yeah. Mom, if a little girl is calling your son's house at 11, 12, and 13, you have to have a conversation with that girl. Or with that son as well. No. Especially that girl is 2 years ahead of your son in brain capacity. Eliminate distractions. Yeah. Number two, eliminate having sports as the predominant activity. And you'd be surprised, there are adults, coaches that are pushing parents to have football practice be the foundation of their child's educational experience. And I'm going to talk about this quite a bit throughout, but it starts in middle school. I've had situations where parents told me that their kid can't come to tutoring or do these certain types of tutoring activities because they have to be at practice. Somehow, football practice, basketball practice, sporting activities have predominated a child's educational experience, especially young Black boys, and they are not being prepared for practical math and science very early at this age. Sports comes third. That's what I always say. Sports is third. God first, if you're a believer in God. Books second, and then sports. Sports needs to come third. I've had situations where coaches tell boys, don't take hard science classes because you won't be able to make the grade. And so their foundation of science is limited from early ages because their coaches, adults, their parents, adults have made a distraction be a foundation for academic learning. I just can't be more passionate about this. Because they need guidance still, they need guidance from parents still, we have to take the reins and say, all other activities must come after practical learning. Okay, well, I hope I went 20 minutes in. Let me make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover, and then I'll look for questions. Oh, lastly, because the child is developing slowly still, it's time to be patient. I told you before, hormones are going crazy. These kids get very disrespectful. Middle school is a very tough time to teach. And I think teachers at this era, 6th to 8th grade, you have to be very patient because you don't know what's going on with these children emotionally, right? That is causing these kind of actions. But you're going to see a lot of violence. You're going to see a lot of fighting. You're going to see a lot of emotional activity because their prefrontal cortex has not taken the reins over their emotional part of their body, the limbic system. So it takes a heavy amount of patience, but also discipline to make sure you keep them in line to eliminate distractions. Okay, thanks guys for listening. I'm going to look for some questions to see if there was some questions from you guys. Hey everybody, I see Karen, Yasmin, Josie. Wow. Let me look for some questions on my other computer. Okay, I see practical questions about math, and they struggled with sequencing. See, I'm not a math girl, so I can't ask you. I can't answer that question in specifics of how we could practically help them with math. But I can ask this question: are you taking them to tutoring? Is there a tutoring availability? I know at PatMis, for instance, from September to May, I have at least two math tutors, and they, vacillate between the weeks, but they're there. Have you tried Khan Academy? I love Khan Academy. They have elementary math videos, and you could actually build your own class based on that issue that your child is having in math. And then they watch videos and they do assignments. I mean, you could build your own class with Khan Academy, and it's free. So I don't know if you have done that, but I would encourage all parents to develop a math class on Khan Academy for your child's grade. They have actually testing questions to see where children are struggling, and then they modify their questions until the child gets it. So consider that. Also, many of the textbooks that come from the child's classroom, I don't know what kind of school your child goes to, but they also have learning dynamic study modules where the computer program, like, it basically modifies questions, and they find out where your child's weakness is, and they keep modifying the question in a different way until the child gets it. So you would want to consider those programs. So I would say tutoring, Khan Academy videos, and practical computer type activities associated with textbooks. But in terms of specific, answers as to how a child can handle a certain type of math, I wouldn't be able to answer that for you. Okay, good, Keena. Yeah, check out Khan Academy. Khan Academy is awesome. And it's for they have every grade. 1, 2, 3, 4, middle school, algebra, etc. Let's see if there are any other questions for me. Come on, guys, give me some questions. No questions. I'm going to look again. Okay, yeah, Josie, exactly. Well, I don't understand this thing about dating and dating. And we used to do it. I mean, girls used to call, I used to feel the temptation. I used to feel the temptation to call a guy that I liked at that age, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Yeah, we like boys. We like boys from elementary school. But my mom had a tight grip on me. I never forget it. I'll give a testimony. There was this guy in my neighborhood that liked me. And I was even older. I think how old was I? Maybe 14? So I might have been a freshman in high school. I was not allowed to date for a long time. And he came to the door. He came to the door. That's what they did. They rang doorbells. That back in the day, they don't do texting and social media. I'm throwing some shade. Back in the days, guys would just come to the doorbell and your door and ring your doorbell. And he had the guts to do it. Rang the doorbell. Can I speak to Maya? My mother was like, "Who are you?" I was sitting there in the cut, like embarrassed. She's like, "Who are you? Where you come from? What is your name? Don't come here again. Don't come here anymore." It was crazy. It was crazy. But she kept me protected though. She eliminated distractions. So you parents have to make sure you protect your children by eliminating the distractions that can deter them from focusing on learning practically. All right? That's a good question, Karen. Karen asks, are there any websites or ways to eliminate distractions in the classroom? Not that I know of, number one. And this is where discipline in the home and discipline in the classroom just has to take the reign. This is where teachers, I gave the testimony one of my first videos. Some teachers are just good at having classroom management skills, and unfortunately, there's less teachers that have that skill. And I'm going to go to prayer about teachers just being able to manage the classroom better. I mean, discipline has left the classroom. So when I was in school, they actually spanked children. So we had that's another thing, they were able to discipline in a different type of way that had children under heavy management. Now they're not allowed to do that. So we have to find ways. On top of that, many teachers that are, especially in the inner cities, they send all the novice teachers to the inner cities. And by right, the hardest children to teach should have the best teachers, the ones that have the greatest classroom management skills. But we have to somehow check our children's emotions at home, through prayer, through role modeling, male role modeling in the household, to have them under heavy subjection, and then just choose your school wisely, the best that you can, and just hope and pray that the Lord will send a manager of the class that's really good. And we just have to get through it. I had to get through 6th through 8th grade. I told you I got suspended in the 6th grade. Because a lot of emotional things were happening to me at that time. My parents were separating in that time frame, right? So you have to understand the emotions, be patient, and just pray that God will get that child through it. But in terms of websites of how to do that, I'm just not sure, other than just having heavy discipline in the household and hoping that we have a good disciplinarian in the classroom. If anybody else has better suggestions, feel free to also put that out there. But also deal with the emotional issue, right? Usually kids that have lack of focus, there's something going on that needs to be dealt with, right? So counseling could be a good thing as well. Good morning, Tanera. How are you? Let me see if there's any other questions. All right, guys. I don't think I see another question. I mean, usually I tell you I have like a 15-second delay, but it's been a blast. I hope that you've learned a lot from this, and God bless. Oh, Garen has a question. I don't know if this question was asked. What are some common signs that would indicate your child has interest in the sciences? It happens early. It happens early. If they love nature, right? If they like to build, if they're heavily talkative, like just inquisitive, always asking questions, why, the whys, why? Yeah, just always talk, very talkative. The biggest troublemakers, the biggest troublemakers will be excellent scientists. The ones that always have something to say, always have something to question, always staring. If you see them daydreaming a lot, they're daydreaming a lot. They're like just looking out. Their imagination is just going. That means they can create. They love to understand why things work. I mean, remember, STEM is with so much stuff. STEM is science, technology, engineering, math. It's not just science. But yeah, that's what I would think. Usually children that love to read very early, children that have a verse vocabulary quickly, they're always talking, they're always dreaming, they're always daydreaming, they tend to stare out a lot. Their brain is working like crazy. You might not think it, but their brain is just moving, and they're thinking, they're imagining. And when you have a great imagination, you can understand how stuff works, scientific processes work. The people who have issues understanding science, they try to make it wordy. They write a lot. They try to take notes a lot and memorize. Good memorizers don't make good scientists. And so a lot of people, especially who want to be physicians, they try to memorize everything. And it drives some of them crazy, unfortunately. Because science is not about just a whole bunch of words. It's imagination and understanding of mechanisms, how things work, how your body works in the case of medicine. So that would be a sign for me. That would be a sign for me. I'm glad I checked this page because somehow it's not showing up on my other. Let me see. Any other questions for me? I don't think so. I'm going to check it again just to make sure I got everybody. That's right, Sinner. I think everybody has potential. There's a little delay that usually happens when I go to my other page, but yeah, there's every potential for every child if they want it. They don't have to. So we just prepare them now, and then if they choose it later, they choose it. If they don't, they still have a good understanding. All right, I think I'm gonna go now. Thank you for the likes. Can I get some loves? Can I get some loves too? Likes and loves. No angry faces.